black sky.
Greetings from Kiev, Ukraine. My name is Dmytro Antoniuk, and I am part of Black Sky team. And this is our digest of our articles and interviews for the past week. Let's get on with it. First article for this is an interview, actually, interview done by Svetlana Myalik. It's called Ukrainian journalist Iryna Zemlyana. My reaction to this verdict is a mix of absurdity and pride. Um, a Russian court sentenced Ukrainian journalist Iryna Zemlyana to 13 years in prison, even though she was not present at the trial in Russia. She was accused of attacking Russian ambassadors, spreading fake news about the army, Russian army, of course, and inciting hatred. However, Zemlyana says the case is political and unfair. She explains that during a protest in Warsaw on May the 9th, 2022, activists wanted to show the world the crimes in Bucha and other regions of Ukraine. They poured red liquid on themselves as a symbol of blood. Zemlyana insists she only poured it on herself, and Polish authorities confirmed that no crime was committed. She believes the verdict shows that Russia fears the truth and is trying to intimidate journalists. There is also a risk that Russia may use international mechanisms to limit her travel. Despite this pressure, Zemlyana says this situation gives her more motivation to continue her work and speak even louder about the war and about the atrocities of Russians in Ukraine. The next one, it is another interview by Svetlana Myalik. It's called "The Ukrainian Drone Sector: How a New War Industry is Taking Shape." This is an interview with an aviation expert, Anatoly Khrapchinsky, about drone warfare and Ukraine's defense industry. Um, in this piece, he explains that Russia is not using new tactics, but is sending many more drones at the same time to overload Ukraine's air defense. And again, at the same time, Ukraine has quickly built a strong drone industry where the new ideas are tested and improved very fast, sometimes in just days or weeks. We actually are witnessing that in of Iranian war right now. He also says that cheap drones are now very important. They are used in large numbers to weaken defenses, while expensive missiles hit key targets, like ballistics, of course. In addition, modern air defense is not only about missiles. It includes radars, sensors, and electronic warfare working together. The expert adds that Ukraine is attacking targets deep inside Russia, including ports, which puts pressure on its economy. By the way, we uh, we record this digest on 4th of April, and this night, this exact night, Ukraine hit few targets in Taliati, deep inside Russia. The expert Anatoly Khrapchinsky adds that Ukraine is attacking targets deep inside Russia, and overall, he believes that success in this war depends not only on technology, but on speed, scale, and the ability to adapt quickly. The next article it's by Arthur Jacques, and the name of it is "The U.S. is lifting sanctions on 3 Russian ships. What does this mean?" Arthur explains a recent U.S. decision to remove 3 Russian ships, Feska Moneron, Fesko Magadan, and SV Nikolai from the sanctions list. The decision applies only to the ships, not to the companies connected to them. Experts think this may be because the ships changed owners or management, so they are no longer directly linked to sanctions Russian banks. But of course, this is a Russian trick. These ships are important for Russia's trade, especially in Asia. So removing sanctions may make transport, insurance, and repairs easier for them. However, this does not mean that sanctions on Russia are ending. One ship, especially this SV Nikolai, is more controversial because investigations shows it may have transported stolen Ukrainian grain and other goods from occupied territories. Even without sanctions, this still raises legal and ethical questions. By the way, this particular ship is connected to mistress of Putin. Overall, the decision is likely a technical step, not a political change, but it could still help Russia improve its logistics and trade. To my perspective, I believe this is a common track for Mr. Trump's administration towards Russia, unfortunately, recently. Another, the next article is by Andrus Hoyovy, and it's called Is Hungary a Russian agent in the EU? Why is Orban building his election campaign on pro Russian narratives? The article looks at Hungary's foreign policy under Prime Minister Viktor Orbán and questions why the country maintains close ties with Russia while most EU states limit contact due to the war in Ukraine. It notes that Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó has visited Russia many times, in particular 16 times since this full-scale Russian war started, and that Hungary has opposed several EU decisions supporting Ukraine and Volodymyr Zelensky. Because of these concerns, the EU has reportedly limited Hungary's access to some sensitive discussions. This article also mentions claims that Hungary may have shared information from EU talks with Russian officials like Sergei Lavrov, mainly the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, uh, which has raised trust issues within the EU. At the same time, Orban is described as using pro Russian and anti Ukraine messaging in his election campaign, possibly to appeal to voters and strengthen his political position. The piece also suggests that Russia could try to influence Hungary's upcoming elections. I remind that these elections are set on the 12th of April this year. The next piece is by Volga Semashko. Rising prices aren't enough. Attacks on ports and pipelines threaten Russian oil exports. This article explains that although oil prices have increased due to American war in Iran, Russia's ability to export oil is under pressure because of attacks on its infrastructure and tighter Western controls. Ukraine has been carrying out drone strikes on key oil ports such as Primorsk, Ust-Luga, and Novorossiysk. First two are on Baltics, and the latter on the Black Sea, temporarily disrupting shipments. At the same time, damage to the Druzhba pipeline has reduced pipeline exports to countries like Hungary and Slovakia. This piece also highlights Russia's reliance on sea transport, about 80% of exports, and its use of a so called shadow fleet of tankers to bypass sanctions. These ships often operate by hiding their uh, identities or falsifying data to continue trading oil despite restrictions. again, I would add that a few nights ago, 2 nights ago actually, from this particular day, we hit another oil refinery in Russia, um, deep inside of Russia. Another piece, another article by Arthur Jacques. And this is a continuity of the story of the trucks, Lithuanian and Polish trucks, stuck inside of Belarus. Starting Monday, Lithuanian and Polish trucks may leave Belarus. The article reports that Belarus has allowed Lithuanian and Polish trucks that were previously stuck in the country to leave after paying storage fees. These fees have been reduced, although they are still considered expensive by carriers. In total, there are over 1,900 Lithuanian registered vehicles in Belarus, including many that belong to Polish companies. All of them will be allowed to exit through appropriate border crossings with Lithuania or Poland, depending on registration and ownership. Even with permission, the process is expected to take weeks or even up to a month. This is due to limited border capacity and the unknown technical condition of vehicles that have been parked for months. Overall, the move helps resolve a transport dispute, though underlying political tensions remain. And another piece, this is actually the last one for today. It's by Andriy Zhoyevy. The Russian speaking region of Estonia has become the target of a Russian information campaign. What is behind the Narva People's Republic, so called Narva People's Republic? Um, this piece describes an online information campaign promoting the idea of a so called Narva People's Republic in the Russian speaking region of Estonia. uh, Majority of inhabitants of Narva are speaking people. These groups appeared on platforms like Vkontakte and Telegram and use symbols similar to the Russian backed DPR in Donetsk and LPR in Ukraine, in Luhansk. The region around Narva has a large Russian speaking population, much of which traces back to the Soviet era, of course. They were moved there after the Second World War. The campaign suggests creating autonomy for this area, though it is presented as an internal movement rather than a call for full independence. It also promotes pro Russian and anti Western narratives. Experts say this is not a real political movement, but an information operation meant to influence opinion and create instability. A similar idea failed in the 1990s and was not recognized by Estonia officially. The article adds that pro Russian views among some Russian speaking residents are mostly unorganized and unlikely to impact Estonia's stability or elections, while authorities continue to monitor the situation and a major conflict is seen as unlikely. So, thank you very much for watching. This was Dmytro Antoniuk from Kiev, Ukraine. I remind you that I am part of Black Sky team, and stay tuned.